This is your Daily 5 for Wednesday, July 29th, 2026. For the second film in, I don't really have a specific theme name, but I'll say movies that were popular among people much younger than us, we watched 2026's Backrooms. Now, Backrooms is an interesting film because it is based on a series of web shorts that got very popular by a creator named Kane Parsons. Those shorts themselves, based on, I believe it was a creepypasta post or something along those lines on 4chan, of an image and a description reply, which grew into this whole thing. So there's a whole bunch of, if you've heard the term creepy liminal spaces, this is really what has generated the interest in that. And so I've watched, I believe, all of the short videos in the Backroom series, because the thing that really impressed me was when I found out that much of it was not made, it was made entirely in a computer. And just the way the storytelling was done was very interesting. And again, much like Obsession, that there's a very specific storytelling intent there. And I wanted to see how that would translate to a film, because I remember when they announced it, the creator had said, this movie is going to work for people who've seen the web series and for people who haven't. And I really wasn't sure how that could be done. And the way it is done, without spoiling anything, is this movie is a 50-50 movie. The first half really caters most specifically to people who have seen the web series. You're going to see things in there, if you've watched the shorts, that you will recognize and pick up on. Now, they're not things that would alienate a viewer who has no idea, but they will be inside kind of checkboxes for people who are familiar with the material. And then at about the halfway point, the movie shifts in a way that anybody can enjoy, and it becomes a really fascinating character study about broken people and how they respond to trying to figure out whether they can get any better or not. That's as surface level as I can make it. It is, again, like Obsession, this movie is made with pinpoint precision, and it is very clear that Kane Parsons, much like Curry Barker, I believe was the director for Obsession, that these individuals know how they want their stories told. And it works very well in both cases. I don't know that I could pick a favorite between these two. They're very different films. But the thing that I like best about both of them equally is how clear the person behind the camera's artistic voice is coming through. These movies feel like they could not be made by people other than the people who made them. And again, like Obsession with Backrooms, I don't know that anybody else, I mean, A24 made the right decision by taking this and giving it to the person who really had been one of the people who popularized it, and just letting him make the movie that he intended to make. If you watch interviews where he's talking about it, you will get a sense of the fact that he has got this thing roadmapped out from beginning to probably the very end. And this movie is very, very surprisingly successful at threading the needle with an audience that will both know it and not know it. That is a tough trick to manage when you are trying to cater to a general audience with a horror film, especially when you have something based on a web series that is constructed very specifically in a non-linear fashion, but you're telling a relatively chronological film to a standard audience. To make that work is really remarkable. It may be that I am more impressed with how this movie is successful than even the movie itself, which is not me criticizing the movie story. I think it's very good. But it is almost more impressive to me that this movie works at all when it really is so tricky and difficult to manage to appeal to an audience that's familiar with the source material when you're not really explaining much of it. And the explanation is very good. And also trying to deliver a movie that if somebody's never seen those short films or those short series, whatever you want to call them, that they still feel like they understand the world, that they're getting told a good story, and it's effective. And really, again, much like Obsession, I understand why Backrooms did so well. And as somebody who was familiar with the original series and was, to be honest about it, a little suspicious of how well it could work in a mass market film or a more general audience film, I am frankly very impressed. So honestly, both of the movies this week, I think we're going to probably both recommend both of them. So much like Obsession, 2026's Backrooms just became available on digital. And if you're at all interested, you should see it because it's very good. Later.